We shift our focus to this story now. The IFP is set to brief the media any moment now. This is post their coalition talks. Joining us to discuss the IFP is Professor Bheki Mngomezulu from the Nelson Mandela University. Professor, good afternoon and thank you very much for your time. It seems the IFP is now ready to share their position ahead of the first sitting of the National Assembly. Your views on the fifth largest party's options currently?
Thank you very much, Mfundo, for having me. Yes, indeed, this is a new development which, as South Africans, we should applaud, because we cannot be left in limbo, not knowing what the future holds for the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Of course, we have a similar situation nationally, but because our focus currently is on KwaZulu-Natal, then of course we should be celebrating, at least for now, that they are about to make an announcement, even though we don't know what the content of that announcement will be. From where I'm standing, the point I've always made is that it would make sense for the MK party and the IFP to come together, particularly because it's easy for them to find each other than would be the case, for example, if they were to say they are forming an alliance with the DA, like the ANC has been thinking about at a national level. So for me, it's a logical thing. That is what we normally refer to as the Grand Alliance, where the two bigger parties would come together and constitute government.
Well, a bit earlier on, we had asked Professor Bheki Mngomezulu to just stay put for us to unpack this very briefing. Professor, thank you very much for your indulgence in just watching that briefing with us. Very important statement coming out of the IFP. They'll be joining the Government of National Unity. Your views?
Thanks, Fundo. First of all, I must commend the president of the IFP, Nelson. He was sober and he was calm, and he stood his ground and then he stated facts. That is the kind of leadership that we ask for from our leaders across all political parties. He was not emotional about issues and he dealt with facts. Most importantly, dealt with an issue which I have been advising people about, that this thing of saying that in the Government of National Unity at a national level, you will have a second deputy president. I was explaining until my voice ran hoarse, saying that in 1994, the reason why we had a Government of National Unity, even after the ANC had won the election with 65%, was because it was part of the plan. And the 1993 interim constitution catered for that. As Labisa correctly pointed out, the current constitution adopted in 1996 has no space for a second deputy president. To do that, you will need a constitutional amendment, which then means that you will need a two-thirds majority, which currently is nowhere to be found. So basically, he was factually correct.
And it's also quite worrying. It's quite worrying that some would have perpetuated that, which he has now labeled as fake news, because like you say, the Constitution section 91 subsection 1 actually deals with that you've got one president, you've got one deputy president as it stands. So it would need an amendment. But I want us to touch on the KwaZulu-Natal element. It seems that the IFP is looking to go into some sort of a governing structure with the DA, NFP, as well as the ANC. Your views on just that and the fact that the door is not closed for the MK party?
You know, that's a very interesting statement from Mr. Tlabesa on two grounds. One, if the IFP were to work with the MK party, they can easily run that government without needing any other political party. That is one critical point. But the second critical point, we are getting pointers that the NFP might be amenable to siding with the MK party. If that were to happen, and the EFF does the same thing with the 2 seats, then it means that we have a tie. Because then the MK is 37 seats, the EFF is 2 seats, the NFP is 1 seat. So if the three parties could come together, they make 40 seats out of 80. Then we have the DA, the IFP, on the other hand, basically coming in the ANC, coming together, they also form 40%. 40 seats. So it's 40-40, then we have a tie. That will then be very interesting as to who would be then amenable to changing gear and then moving to another political party. But as things stand at the moment, two parties that hold the ace card is the IFP and the NFP.
And then the candidacy of Tamintuli for Premier in KZN, quite interestingly, we heard there from Velengosini Tlabisa that they have agreed, or at least the DA is supporting his candidacy, but so is the ANC.
Yeah, no, you see, Mfondo, what we need here are leaders who know what they are doing, not leaders who lead by emotions. We need the leaders who are sober, who are going to put the interests of the province first, like Labisa was saying. So if you were to do that, then it means that if you have this agreement at a national level, wherein you have the parties that Verenkosi Labisa indicated are in agreement, at least for now, and then you leave that at that national level. Then you come to the provincial level, you consider the political dynamics of the province. And then you say,
sorry to interject there, Professor. Just sorry to interject there. I just want to know, just in the interest of time, the element of Siboniso Duma here, or any ANC member perhaps being put forward as a premier candidate. I mean, for them to have accepted Tamin Tuli of the IFP as a premier candidate, does it mean they're just accepting defeat and saying we're not putting forward any candidate?
No, they have to, if the leadership has spoken, because if you look at the strength and the weaknesses of the leaders in the province, obviously then the IFP is in a better position in terms of the strength of the leaders. If you look at the leadership of the ANC in the province, it has been found wanting on a number of cases. And then you look at the Wateza incident, you look at statements that have been made before the election, during the election, and immediately after the election. Then, of course, if you are a leader of a sound mind, you would want to consider all those factors and then consider what would be best for the province.
Not to do anyone's bidding, but if we had to just look, now that you speak of Kwaqeza and everything that has happened in KZN, particularly between the ANC as well as the IFP, be it the mic grabbing incident, what happened with the IFP mayor, the Prime Minister Buthelezi, all of that, it seems as though these political parties have seriously displayed a level of political maturity that some would have not expected, because when speaking to a lot of pundits just after the mic grabbing incident, it seemed as though that relationship was not salvageable. But to hear now Velenkosini state that they're going to do what is in the interest of South Africans, it seems all is squashed between the IFP and ANC.
Yes, indeed. You know, the Wateza incident was regrettable. But what was even more regrettable was the manner in which the PEC handled the matter. When they released a statement, instead of reprimanding Mr. Duma for what had happened there, they in fact gave him accolades for having saved the day, quote unquote. That was not good for the organization, and it was not good for anyone, and not good for all other political parties, because here we are talking about the Zulu throne. We are not talking about a political party. Even if you do consider the fact that Buthelezi is in fact a mayor of Zululand, but he was not in that meeting in his capacity as the leader of the IFP. He was a leader basically on behalf of the Zulu nation. So that is what then caused the ANC in that regard.
Professor, thank you very much for your time this evening. That was Professor Bheki Mngomezulu from the Nelson Mandela University speaking to us there.